This is the Henry's Child Podcast. Am I crazy? Or am I just raving?
Welcome, ladies and jelly spoons, to episode 79 of the Am I Crazy or Am I Just Raving podcast. Today, I get the privilege of interviewing my friend, Presley Perez. Presley is a genius behind the PSLZY and Arpender projects. Presley is not only a musician that can definitely hold his own when it comes to playing and writing a song, but he also has set up venues in Portland and currently co-owns and runs Black Market Charity Tapes, also in Portland. And in this interview, we talk a little bit about his past and some of his influences. We play a song from Arpender, and we talk about his new project, TV People. More importantly, Presley actually goes ahead and interviews me on a couple questions, which I left in because if he had those questions, I'm sure somebody else out there in the universe does as well. So please enjoy my conversation with Presley Perez. So, Presley, thanks for coming in, and it is Presley, right?
Yeah,
Did you say it correctly?
No,
okay, good.
Perfect, yeah.
Good, nice.
Yep.
Thanks for coming in, and this is my inaugural Am I Crazy or Am I Just Raving podcast comeback.
Woohoo!
This is the Empire Strikes Back of podcasting for me because the pandemic happened.
I hope I don't
you're good. You're good, brother. You're good. So Presley and I have we have kind of a sordid history. Maybe we'll get into some of that later. But I was exposed to his record, PSLZY, and I loved it. I heard it on Spotify, and it was and played it for Rich in the car, and we were just kind of looking at each other going like, this is a breath of fresh air, and this is this dude's 2017 release. And it's kind of funny because I think 2017 was like last month, but it was really,
oh my gosh, right?
really a few years ago.
Well, the funny part, first of all, thank you for the beautiful compliment. I actually cut that on a weird gaming laptop that I got off Amazon. You know, a lot of these higher end gaming PCs have some pretty sufficient stuff for audio engineering as well. So that was all done on that. And it was during a time where me and my wife Kelly were in Croatia. Yeah, so that was the kind of a weird thing. The album the title of the album being Anywhere is kind of, I missed a lot of my friends. We were on the road post Trump's election for quite some time, just kind of bouncing around, as I think some other people were like, interesting. All right.
Let's do this now.
Yeah, exactly. So super proud of that record. There's still it always going to be weak spots for it for me on it, but really, really stoked on how that turned out.
Cool. So you recorded that whole record on a gaming laptop.
Yeah. I had a real old school version of. I don't know if you remember the old M boxes, but
I remember them.
Yeah. Back when before it was Avid. What was that company? Yeah, I think it was just called
Digidesign.
Digidesign. Yeah. They had those big, ugly gray rack mount ones too. But yeah, that was all pretty much done off of an M box. I used some Korg plugins for the synth stuff, and mostly FL Studio for all the tracking and whatnot. So it was a pretty limited setup, but I think that's kind of some of its charm. Yeah, some of the inspirations being like this band called Electric President I'm super fond of.
Okay.
I basically like when geeks make music and like nerd out about doing more of the engineering side of things. But yeah, no, I'm super proud of how that turned out. Yeah, and it was kind of a big love letter to all my friends and just kind of isolation in general,
Were you the only musician on that record?
Yeah, that was all my programming and instrumentation, yeah.
Wow.
The live instruments were done when I got back, just direct in, being bass and guitar, yeah. And then all the vocals were done just off of a 58, plugged into the M box. So yeah.
So you were in Croatia for for this whole record, or like?
Yeah, we spent 3 months in Croatia. I advise anybody that hasn't been, that's looking for a very affordable vacation, check out Split, Croatia. It's an insanely inspiring place on the map. But yeah, basically, we were kind of tight on money, and so a lot of it was kind of just waiting for Kelly to fall asleep, and I'd stay up, 4, 5, 6 hours and just kind of grind on laying some of those concepts down. I'd been taking some of those song ideas, had been kind of traveling with me for a while, and it was kind of nice to have the allocated time to, I wasn't working at the time or anything, and just basically lay it down,
Yeah, that's the beauty of an artist in isolation.
Oh,
Being able to have that level of self-expression to where it just kind of like comes out, even if your wife is sleeping in the other room, and you're just kind of like, wow, because that's pretty cool.
yeah.
So that's all you. Did you do the artwork as well?
Yeah, actually, that the cover is a really cool story. So in Versailles, for those beautiful statues that you see, well, during that time of the year, they actually have to cover them all up by this, with this weather insulated material. And I thought that was just the coolest fucking looking thing, man. Like seeing.
Oh, so it didn't like deteriorate the marble or whatever they used
exactly.
for it? Oh, okay.
And I just thought that was, pretty dramatic and awesome. Just trying to imagine what's behind this, this veil of, weatherproof
oh, that's cool.
material. Yeah. So, that was just a phone picture that it kind of tweaked on Lightroom and all that, So, yeah, I was pretty hyped on that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a geek in the house. I love it. We're going to get along pretty well.
Yeah.
So 2017, PSLZY comes out. It's released, obviously, digitally on Spotify, Apple Music, I'm sure, or I guess iTunes at the time. When do you come back to the States?
We were back the Christmas of 2016. I get my dates completely messed up, but yeah, because I remember as soon as we got back to Florida, I did all the instrumentation that I wanted to do. I wasn't able to bring a guitar or anything with me, so
right. Mm-hmm.
So that would have been about that time. And then we land in Florida with my wife's parents. We spend, I think, 2-ish or so weeks, and then made our way to Kansas City. I had about a year and a half there where I worked in just a couple of kitchens out there, and then decided to come back to Portland after that, and absolutely have not looked back since. So
wow, okay. Well, let's roll it back even further than that. Where'd you grow up?
I actually grew up in just outside of LA, kind of like La Puente area, if you're familiar, or West Covina.
Not to be a total stalker, but I did look up the area code of your phone number. When
Yeah,
you were
909.
texting me,
Yeah, Ontario.
It's Ontario. I even asked Rich too, and he's like, "Well, they have a really big airport that people fly into." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, Ontario, California, right? Okay."
Yeah.
So Southern California. So you grew up in Southern California,
Yep.
and when you were growing up, was there a particular music that you were into, or what about musical instruments you played?
Oh, okay, yeah. So I actually started playing. I started playing guitar when I was about 12. Got really serious about it when I was 16, and that sort of actually lined up around the same time when I started taking recording and engineering pretty seriously. I had a old Boss BR, I think it was the 10 or something, where it was 8 faders and a CD drive on it, and there was a flourishing hardcore scene, especially in just in that area, specifically West Covina, and so I started recording just my friends' bands, their little punk projects and everything in basements and the various garages and whatnot.
It's all created, baby.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I grew super, super fond of just the whole engineering process in general. I opened up a small little studio when I had enough money, around 19, and it was basically in the back of my grandma's old house, and it was sort of a little room. And that's how I got to Portland. Was I had recorded this fantastic band called The Wild Reeds. I did their first 2 records, and they were kind enough to invite me on tour with them to run sound for them. Yeah, if you haven't checked them out before, they're phenomenal. They had some pretty mild commercial success, and they toured a lot with a lot of really cool artists. But
Wild Reeds.
The Wild Reeds.
The Wild Reeds. Okay.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I don't know if they're necessarily active anymore, but there's a couple of projects that sort of fell off from there, or sprung off from there. Sharon Silva, fantastic LA artist, one of the singers of the Wild Reeds, and then Kinsey D'Aquila. She has a project called Dr. Kinsey, which is really cool, kind of lo-fi, femme vocal, like really cool shit. But basically, we got up to Portland, and we had it was just a little West Coast tour. For some reason or another, our 2 Seattle dates got canceled, and so we ended up staying in Portland for an extra week and a half. And mind you, this is when I think I was like 22 at the time. And I just absolutely fell like head over heels. This was like 2013-ish or so. So as soon as we get back, I packed my shit up, literally sold everything, went out to Lake Elsinore, bought a 1989 Dodge Ram van that I shit you not, had to super glue the gas tank flange was like fucked up on it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I just came up here, and then I just grinded. I've had a lot of kitchen gigs, and then kind of on the sidelines there, I opened up this really weird kind of sketchy venue called Replicant with a couple of friends of mine by the Aladdin Theater.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I know right where that is. Yeah.
Yeah. So that printer spot, we were doing little DIY shows out of there for a while.
What was it called? The Replicant?
Yeah, it was called Replicant.
Replicant?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good location, dude.
I know.
Wow.
And we had there's a picture somewhere online of we just printed out, standard printer paper size, the individual letters, and hung them in the window because it was nothing was legal about how we were doing things. but yeah, it was like just a small little, and it was mostly like focused on electronic music stuff, not necessarily the most danceable electronic, but I like to call it like the hipster electronic stuff where it's, stuff I like, at least, but yeah. And then fast forward a little bit. Yeah. The PSLZY project, I think that Anywhere, the record that you had heard, is probably going to be the last thing I do under that name, just because it's weird to say, hey, the project of PSLZY. How do I say that? Hence the Arpender project, where it's kind of a little bit of a rebranding,
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And so is Arpender's your 2021 release, okay? And is there any other musicians, or is that just you as well?
Probably about once a year I'll play like a set with some of the material off Anywhere and some new stuff I'm working on. But the goal of Arpender is definitely to have it more compatible where I can bring in and out musicians and sort of have a collection of friends at least that I'd be able to call upon. And I think I've kind of structured the material in that way too. Trying to play songs off of Anywhere is difficult, and admittedly it ends up becoming some bastardization of karaoke because I just can't play 10 things at once, Sure. So, I mean, I do a pretty good job of like selecting certain elements to kind of play along with like, a pre-recorded elements, but I just fucking miss playing with musicians so much, like, and being in more of a collaborative band setting. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's something to the benefit of both of those as well. So Arpender, it's really interesting. That song has such a unique build to it. It's almost like layers in Photoshop that are kind of like eventually kind of building up. And we were like, I was with Rich and we were getting lunch when we were listening to it. And I remember being all like, oh, this is like different. Cause like starts off with the guitar and then it kind of like builds up a little bit. So I really dug that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And the ebb and flow of writing the song with every little layer sort of coming in builds up this majestic kind of big, thing, which is very cool. I mean, you definitely know how to write a song for sure.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Would you be okay if we played that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, go for it.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, I absolutely dig just the process of layering too, but that song in particular, I like the big fake out feel of having that sort of, kind of traditional singer-songwriter folk thing come in the beginning and then, drop a double time, pretty quick paced drum part with the weird 808s going on too. It's kind of a nod to like some hip hop stuff.
The mixture of electric and acoustical instruments. I mean, acoustic meaning electric guitar, but actual playing a non-virtual instrument, I should say. Yeah, it's very, very cool. Wow, that is very cool. I see that you have that Spotify clips as well too. I did one of those for Stars in Your Eyes, and it turned out pretty good. No, it's a great song, man. So Arpender, what's the saga with that? Are you going to make a record with that, or maybe get some more musicians on, or?
I think I'm going to press forward. I'm working on a 5-track right now that I'm just going to more or less play shows with this summer, and I think that'll more so be just me. Possibly, there's a drummer in town that I'm really excited to work with. I can't remember his last name, but Jonathan is his first one. He's a friend of a friend, and he kind of expressed interest on hopping on some stuff. So hopefully, I think the stage layout might be pretty cool if it's just me and a drummer, for
a lot of possibility there, right?
Yeah, plus the scheduling issues to arise with only 2 people are far more infrequent.
Oh, dude, you're preaching to the choir there.
Tell me about so Henry's Child now, where are you all located?
That's a great question. So I live in Portland. Our singer lives in Eugene. Our drummer lives in Harrisburg, and our guitar player lives in Lebanon.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And we all have a studio in Salem.
Sweet.
So we meet in Salem for cheap rent. Yeah, we used to actually be able to record at that studio, but we couldn't anymore after some marijuana folks moved in next door and had an epic hydroponic setup that of all things affected the electricity.
Oh,
so you could hear it in the lines of the instruments when you would start recording and stuff. But the blessing is everything has gone. I mean, it's almost mobile. Like I remember doing podcasts on like a MacBook Pro or something. It's just crazy how different it is. But we're all over the state, and we essentially were a band from the 90s, got popular post-grunge kind of thing. I mean, we probably got a good 20 years on you as far as age-wise goes. Toured, did the whole thing in the 90s. Doing a make good for another band, we decided to get back together in 2014.
Sick.
We did, and we ended up selling out the Wow Hall with all of these kids, like literally mouthing songs that hadn't been recorded in like 20 years. So that means they must have got it from an uncle, or they must have found it at a Goodwill, or things that we would do when we were kids, like, oh, like this, the cover of this record's cool, I'm going to buy it, kind of a thing.
Hell yeah.
So that happened, and then we're like, okay, as long as people keep showing up, we will keep making music. So here we are. I mean, just, And then I gave you the other record, too, the 7 Second Circle record.
Yeah, oh, fantastic as well.
Which is the same musicians with a different singer.
Oh, okay.
So
gotcha.
So we had 7 Second Circle going when Henry's Child took over this other show and sort of had the reunion. So now the two sort of play simultaneously fairly well together. And again, not to tell too many tales outside of school, but both singers have other projects besides being in their respective roles.
Okay.
So it's not like anybody's cheating on anybody. This is Polly Portland.
I know, that's so funny you mentioned that. I was talking to the bassist I'm working with, some jam with a couple people. He's like, wow, do you have time? And I was like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I know. Yeah, being in multiple bands is like weird polyamorous relationships that you're trying to like explain. It's all above board,
Kind of, yeah.
Yep. So are you guys currently working on any new material or anything, or?
So it's funny you should ask. We actually, we are, and it's not funny you should ask because that's a totally legit question. So we had, after we got together, we put out a brand new record of brand new material.
Okay.
And it was called I Have Become. And we're working on the second half of this called One of the Numb, because that was a line from a song from our 1997 record, Clearly Confused.
Sweet.
I've become one of the numb. And so we decided, we didn't go out to decide to do a double record, but when we did I Have Become, our lifelong goal was to have it on vinyl.
Sweet.
There was like, I would sit there as a kid and open up ELO and look, and there's this giant spaceship, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
And then when I joined Henry's Child, I walked in, like Pieces of 8 was like on, like the physical record was on the wall as a poster. I'm like, oh, this is so cool.
There's nothing like the tangible media. You know
my
what
goodness.
I mean? Like,
completely.
And also too with vinyl, and with cassette as well, forcing your audience to hear something linearly and like not being able to just click through, or sometimes Spotify will do us dirty too, I feel, as our artists, where it'll put the the most played song up first on when somebody's checking things out. And I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have put music on Spotify, that have had some listeners and be like, I fucking hate that first song that pops up. I wish it was like, but having a record, that's everything,
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, with the Spotify thing, one thing that I've noticed is I feel like when you play by their rules and you do like the short with it, that definitely puts it up at the top. Because Stars in Your Eyes was a song from that record, from the I've Become record, which I physically have for you.
Oh, sweet. Awesome.
If you have vinyl.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
And it was what we actually had a video for. And so I had a little bit of a snippet, and I tried to kind of like find, because what are they, like 15 seconds or something?
You're talking about trying to find a loop point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super. And I wanted to do one that had all of the band. And so, and there's this beautiful drone shots of like the lead singer on this mountaintop and this drone's like going around it and stuff like that. But the rest of the band is like in the parking lot playing or something. So we had to find it. But it was cool. And I swear it's got something to do with the weighted algorithm for either. I don't even remember if I paid any extra for it, or
I don't think you have to. I think you just upload it with. Are you using DistroKid or something similar to?
For one of the records, I'm using DistroKid. Another one, I'm using CD Baby for.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, same difference. I do remember there was some company that was like charging $3 or something to put it into a different file format. And they're like, oh, it'll upload faster or something. I don't know.
Gosh, everybody needs to get their cut on the upload, right?
Oh, my goodness, dude. It's like a cash grab.
So when did you all shoot that video?
When did we shoot it? I believe it was pre-COVID. So probably 2000. Well, the record came out in 2017. So we probably did the video in 2018. Would be a good guess. But yeah, so the new record, back to your original question, the new record is going to be called One of Them, and hopefully it's going to be a full length record. I didn't really realize how limited we were when it came to the amount of time and space that we could have. With the 7 Second Circle record, you'll notice that it actually went to we had the high quality problem of having more material than would fit on a CD.
That's a great problem to have.
But yeah, it is for sure. And so we thought to ourselves, CDs are so passé. Nobody would ever want a CD. And so we decided to release it just digitally. And this is 2015. So like not bleeding edge, but maybe cutting edge. I remember like having to apply for Spotify, and it was like a thing and all this stuff. And then and I think that we were gauging it by something like Facebook likes or something like that. Like that was our metric, right? That we were sort of looking at it and saying like, oh, this is going to be popular or whatever. And we had sort of aligned ourselves in 7 Second Circle with the prog rock movement, because Porcupine Tree had just released The Incident. It was like this big, like huge. I mean, we went and saw them at the Roseland, and it was like sold out. And we're like, a prog show is sold out. Oh my God. And so we were lining ourselves up with that. And we immediately started getting all these requests for records. And I'm like, I don't have in a cool, like I'm trying to be the cool dad. Like I'm like, we don't have them. We're not blah, blah, blah. So this company called Just for Kicks Music in Germany wrote and said, well, why don't you send me, 100 discs? I'm like, bro, I don't have any discs. I'm sorry, Google Translate is not working in sending this. And they say, well, just tell me what it would cost for me to get 100 discs. So I gave them a price, and they cut me a check.
Oh,
and I get 1,000 discs printed, sent them 100, and then they said, well, I'll tell you what, it's probably going to be expensive, so let me send you the postage as well over PayPal. Is that okay if I do that? And I'm like, okay, cool. This is a good, a good deal. So believe it or not, we're still on that replication of those discs.
Oh, killer.
So yeah, it ended up being a really cool thing. And so we're very, I think we'll probably always do physical media. With the I've Become record, we did cassettes as well.
Yep.
And that was kind of a trip to find somebody that did it. And here they, I remember walking in and having all those replication machines with people physically, doing it.
The Telexes or, the Sonys have their ones.
Yeah.
It's actually funny. If you don't mind, I'm going to totally have a shameless plug here.
Please do.
Me and longtime collaborator / business partner run a small tape label in town called Black Market Charity Tapes.
Oh, cool. Here in Portland?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. We do. It's pretty much an excuse for us to put out the stuff we like, and it's not I don't think we're ever going to see a dime from it, but I love being able to have that physical media at a show, so, oh, it's everything, if somebody can tangibly walk away with, and I think larger artists are picking up on that, like, especially with regards to cassette, because cost of doing a run of cassettes versus cost of doing 1,000 vinyl. I mean, oh my gosh, I haven't had the privilege yet to put anything on vinyl, but yeah, the cost is crazy, right? Or it's pretty steep.
It was pretty steep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wait till you open it up, dude. I mean, we went full on gatefold and it was pretty bananas. So okay, so you have is it just a replication house or is it a label or do you like sort of?
It's the most bare bones version of like basically our deal is, hey, we really like your stuff. Can we put out, maybe like we're actually dropping a new one tomorrow for Autopilot is for Lovers, which is a fantastic artist in town if you haven't heard. But for their tape, we're doing, I think we're doing a run of 100. They keep 50, we keep 50, and that's the deal. That's pretty much, we have like a 1 paragraph thing that people sign, and they go on their merry way and we keep the 50 and we're not allowed to press any more than that initial run, so it kind of works out awesome because you can usually demand about $7 to $10 at a show for a cassette, and it's like kind of sometimes a nice little boost for a touring band to just have one additional thing sitting on the table,
100%.
But
so you do 100 cassettes. Mm-hmm. You keep 50. You give them 50 at no cost to the artist. They just get it, and that's sort of their cut, how they get paid.
Yep.
So then, do you go to their shows and sell the tapes, or is it like, do you have a physical like location?
No, we don't have any real physical location. We're usually at the shows already because most of the people that we're pressing stuff for are our homies,
Sure.
Yeah, we have a website you can visit, blackmarketcharitytapes.com. We have some of the stuff that we've put out up there. But yeah, me and my friend Matt Black Bryson, and goes by, so he's also a phenomenal artist. He has a couple of projects in the works called Fast Pastiche. He just put out his fourth record, I can't remember, but fantastic electronic project. And he also is a phenomenal rapper, goes by Grape Juice Scott. We're actually working on an album right now. I'm helping him mix it, helping him just kind of put it all together. But sorry,
No, that's awesome. I love this kind of stuff. Hey, this is how we, and I will, if you watch any of these weird little ones that I've done in between the real podcasts where I just give updates, I am all about us being together, dude. We are stronger together than we are apart.
Amen.
And, all this made up fabrication of artists not liking each other or people having political differences and stuff. Guess what, everybody? It's bullshit.
Yeah,
we all want the same thing, you guys. We're all in this together, man. So that's awesome. Well, so you had also mentioned earlier too that you had another project that's in the works right now called TV People. Why don't you tell us a little bit about TV People?
TV People is really exciting. As soon as the weather started getting shitty, I started really focusing on drums. I have a little basement set up, went and got a cheap drum kit and everything. And I just, it always seems like the drummers are in demand, and I just want to play as many shows as possible, for the foreseeable
good
future.
Drummers are really in demand. Yeah.
So I've been grinding on that, but along that journey of playing drums, I met my buddy Chase Yonker, and we started collaborating on kind of like some Melvin-y kind of sounding heavy stuff, Cool. And then we found a real drummer, so I moved over to guitar, which is my primary thing. But yeah, TV People is really fun. It's very much so along the lines of, I feel like, we would totally fit on a bill with Henry's Child, to be honest with you. Like, I would love to open up for you guys sometime if there's ever a opportunity to do so. You know, real linear songwriting where it takes you from one place to another, and
cool.
Real heavy kind of distortion vibes. You know, we don't currently have a singer, but the goal is to write 8 songs. We're on song number 5 right now. Write 8 songs, lay them down, find a vocalist, and then, you know, do a little bit of the rearranging. But yeah, super, super fond of how that whole project's turning out. Well, how about yourself? Like, are you working on any solo stuff or no?
I'm a dad with a full-time job, and so I'm blessed to be in both bands right now. But thanks for asking. So what TV people, I mean, is there any sort of, you got 5 out of the 8 songs. It's awesome. Do you guys rehearse every week? Is that kind of like a constant schedule and stuff?
Totally.
Nice.
And I'm the primary songwriter on that one. So a lot of it is kind of me doing, you know, a little bit of work ahead of time and just sort of presenting the band with rough demos and whatnot, and just kind of what I'm hearing in my head. But yeah, it just feels good to be in like a straight ahead, you know, rock project, you know. As much as I love my samplers and synths and nerding out on a bunch of stuff, there's nothing like just plugging into an orange CR 120 amp, you know. And
that's a good segue, but I'm not going to take it now.
fair.
You guys will have to wait till the end.
Yeah.
So, okay, so if you guys were going to go out and try to get some shows now here in Portland, where would you go apply?
Ooh,
who would you talk to?
You know, honestly, like, there's been some pretty exciting venue stuff lately. We're actually pretty close to that Lollipop Shop one that opened up where Dig-a-Pony used to be.
Block up that way, yep.
Yeah, I really like some of the bills that they've been putting out. There's also, do you know where the old Twilight Cafe was?
Certainly do.
Yeah, there's a new one called Mana Occulta, or Mana Occulta, but something like over there. And to be honest, I've always had better success finding shows by just, you know, especially with the whole Instagram thing and seeing who's out there playing currently. And, you know, if you have demo material and you're like, hey, you know, I'd really love to open up for you guys. I've always had pretty good luck just being able to kind of direct message other bands as opposed to venues, you know. But, yeah, that would be my kind of angle right now, is just trying to get a show at something like that, you know.
Yeah, it's really overwhelming and there's so much social media and there's so much to keep up on that it's almost kind of like where, you know, I've said this many times on this podcast, focus is the new currency. You know, obviously we've gone from, you know, downloading a single to downloading parts of a song in a ringtone form to now TikTok, whatever the hell TikTok is, you know, to basically just little 30-second snippets. And so, well, that leads me to, because you said the Instagram thing, and I'm like, where do I find like band? Like, it used to be, what was it, bookyourownfuckinglife.com was a good one. Craigslist for a while.
Oh, for sure.
And it's funny because, like, you're right. Like, every time I turn around, there's a new, you know, venue opening up. I'll go to like Blackwater or High Watermark, and again,
love both those.
Not places typically that Henry's Child would play, but would be open. I went to High Watermark on a Thursday night. The 3 bands I never heard of, 2 of them had death metal fonts so hard. I even took a picture and sent it to my drummer who loves death metal, and even he's like, I don't think that's even a language.
Yeah, like, for sure.
Is it Klingon in some death metal font? And it was $20 at the door, and it was packed on a Thursday night with it's just amazing what occurs. I also live 2 blocks away from the Wonder Ballroom.
Oh, okay.
And so I will turn down Russell to go home. It's the secret way I get a parking spot when I come home at 5 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And there'll be a line already around, you know, MLK on a Tuesday, and I'll go home and I'll look it up on my phone. I'm like, who's playing? It's, you know, Fred Fufunik from Finland or something like I'd never heard of.
Totally.
And, you know, and it's just amazing. So that's my endless question, is how do we get the word out? I mean, I still have a website that I use for both Henry's Child and 7 Second Circle have websites. They're not interactive. They're little flat things I run in S3 that are just, you know, super easy, pennies every month kind of a thing. I update with, you know, links to all the other places that go out. And every time I ask bands for their website, they give me their Facebook page or some, or their Wix page or something like that. Is there something that I'm missing? Or does everybody just do it differently?
Honestly, I mean, I feel like the Instagram approach is where it's at. One, because almost all venues are represented on there. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
So what I'll do is I have kind of a separate account just for doing this sort of tactic where I'll basically only have that feed subscribed to venues in town, right? So as I'm scrolling, I can see names of artists that I don't recognize. And what's really cool from a communal element, and I even think somebody outside of, trying to book shows or play shows or whatever, I think it's a really good tactic to find local music. Just because, again, you've got the flyer right there on that little, square. And, the artists are usually tagged right there. And I guess that's what I'm listening to today. And then you find some really fucking tight shit, for an opener band or, second opener or whatever. And it's like, oh man, I would have never found this had I not been looking at this flyer on this thing, so. Well,
one thing that you inherently get that I just like to remind our listeners about is, you spend your whole life writing your first record. Mm-hmm. And from the time you're 13, there'll be riffs or something going in your head or shower thoughts, or you're laying there in bed and something happens, and if you can nail it out of the park on your sophomore record, I mean, think about those. Led Zeppelin 2, Purple from Stone Temple Pilots. Sure. I mean, these are like epic stuff. So I'm with you, man. When you find somebody new like that like is a band you've never heard of, you go to their thing and it's dynamite. I mean, that's cool. Like that's really just how it is. I mean, it used to be without Instagram, we would just network by physically going out to the clubs. Mm-hmm. Well, we were also 22 then and could recover much faster.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Right.
So So I didn't even think about that. So Instagram. And you can embed links in there, right? Too, like you can embed external links.
Yeah. So you got to forgive me because I'm not super on top of it, but I believe there's a thing called link in bio where you basically just drop a link to an exterior page and it'll have all of your stuff. So link to Spotify, link to your YouTube channel if you have one. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's just like a coagulated single link button on your bio section of Instagram.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I use both Linktree.
Linktree, that's the one.
Mostly for the newsletter. Mm-hmm. But when we're done, I'll show you our EPK. Mm-hmm. I wrote an EPK for both bands that I'm fairly proud of. But that's really cool, man. I love that idea. Instagram and getting shows from that too. Yeah. That's very cool. So, well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up here with the story of how we met.
Oh, yeah.
I very rarely get to say this, but Presley was a Craigslist hookup.
This is me, for those of you listening, high-fiving. Yep.
So I had put up some of Rich Clinton's gear up on Craigslist, and somebody wrote me over Craigslist and was like, "Oh man, I want to check out this amp and it looks really cool and I have the matching cabinet for it." We kind of went back and forth. He comes over and he didn't bring a speaker cable.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, what kind of chump? Even at my office, for me, what kind of chump is selling this and doesn't have a speaker cable? I was embarrassed when he asked me. I'm like ripping things out. Now, mind you, I have another amp down here too, and I was thinking, I could just take the, and I couldn't pull it out. So I felt super bad.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Well, I don't have an instrument cable." And I thought, okay, well now I don't feel so bad.
Yep.
So we find both of these, and it's just totally in my office is just massively in disarray. And we find both of these things, and he starts playing, and I'm like, damn, this kid can play.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Because a lot of times, you guys, when I sell stuff for Rich, it's like Guitar Center up in here.
Yeah.
And they'll spend 40 minutes playing
Smoke on the Water.
Smoke on the Water, Stairway to Heaven. And then they go, well, I don't really like the ambiance or the tone. And I'm like, bro, this is where clients come from me, man. And
tone is in the fingers.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness. So anyway, I met Presley, and when he was walking out, I gave him Listen Closely because Rich had played that particular orange amp on that record, and I think it's very cool of us to find musicians and friends that we can meet. And he started texting me. He's like, dude, it's dynamite. And I gave him 7 Second Circle Divide. He really liked that too.
So good.
And, you're a brother, man. I mean, that's amazing, dude.
Well, it's also just rare when somebody hands you a piece of music that you actually like, oh, fuck, this is awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I have a couple more questions on Henry's Child, if that's all right.
Oh, yeah, no, go for it.
My biggest thing is like, in writing the one of the Numb, like, because you guys are currently still in the writing process with it. Mm-hmm. How is it working with, you guys had mentioned that you'd been together, like, you got 20 years on me and stuff with the age difference. And, how is it, what are the interesting ways in which you feel like you guys have individually developed as musicians, or maybe like, things that you've noticed that different approaches that you guys are writing right now, like, or do you notice anything in particular about how you guys write music differently these days, or since the longevity of the time you guys have been together?
Oh, yeah. For sure. So there's really 3 questions you asked. The first one, like, time is just a valuable thing for anybody who tries to master anything. So, what was it? Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours or something like that. We had that on the first go around. So I think that we all have done things individually that have kept that musicianship up. So nobody ever quit. So me and Rich, the guitar player, we've never stopped since 1994. So 1995, actually. So we've always been in some sort of everything from a punk project to Henry's Child to 7 Second Circle. So the first answer is we've all kept things sort of up individually. And has the process changed? It absolutely has. And a lot of that is the tyranny of time and distance. And so one of the rare pleasures I have is I have just microphones in the room that I've adjusted over months, just tweaking here and there, and a little Scarlett that sits inside of the control room. And I just hit the play button and I record everything. And one of my rare pleasures is Monday morning in IT, which arguably is the worst time because all the shit's happened over the weekend and people's passwords have expired. My beautiful thing is I sit down and I listen to the day before's rehearsal. And from there, you pulled some gems out. And so if you do the heavy lifting yourself and you go, of the 3.5 hours of just recorded material, which half of it is banter or talking about food or lunch or girlfriends or whatever's happening, there'll be about like 3 or 4 little gems, and those little seeds get planted, and then they get passed around. And then and we heard a quote a long time ago: if you can remember a riff, it's worth keeping. And I'm totally butchering it because my brain is not picking up the actual thing. But that's the idea, is that seed gets kind of planted and then it turns into something else. So if we have played something after 2 or 3 rehearsals, because we only get together 1 day a week, and it's typically only for about 4 to 5 hours, then it probably is going to morph into a song, And from there, we will make sure that the notes fit together, and then we'll cut just the music, and then we sort of give that to Andy, and he'll go off and kind of write his own stuff, and then comes back usually the next or 2 rehearsals later or something like that with a fairly like kind of what the melody is going to be. There's been a huge emphasis ever since I joined these guys on melody and the way it sort of fits over it. So we've always treated vocals as its own instrument, as it probably should be.
Yeah, on both of the records that you gave me, the 7 Second Circle one and the Henry's Child one, I thought it was interesting because you guys on both of those records capture, I kind of always talk about the linearity of a song, like especially in prog music, where it's just, if you can nail these transitions where the listener doesn't even notice you've taken them to, like I was listening to Headlights on our way over here and I was kind of like, I'm going to, at the end it's the name of the podcast and everything. And it's amazing because like, I love listening to prog records and looking at my phone. I was like, oh fuck, we're still on the same song. Like because you have these little nuggets where it's like, oh, I love where we're at right now. How did we get there? And I think, that's a really, really strong strong suit of your, the collection of musicians that are in both of those projects.
Oh, thanks, Ben.
Yeah, it's really good. So
thanks. Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming in, Presley. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been a blast, man.
It's great to meet new friends, and it's even better when they get you on a musical level. And as you can tell from my conversation with Presley, we just really understand each other. His record's really good. Go to Spotify, download it. The links are in the description. And I'm looking forward to hearing TV People as well. And so if there's an opportunity to perform together, you bet we're going to take that for sure. Speaking of performances, the best way to find out about performances is to sign up to our newsletter list. If you go to the Henry's Child website, that's henryschild.com, leave your first name and email address, you will be sent a different version of Human Being, and more importantly, you'll continue to get updates for shows, new releases, and all the cool stuff coming down the pike for both Henry's Child and 7 Second Circle. So thanks again for tuning in, my friends, and we'll talk soon.
It came out my mouth.